At 4:03 p.m., Dorothy Macklin walked up the steps of a Boston law firm. She had never been invited anywhere like this. Inside, a long conference table gleamed under tall windows. She was the only person not in business clothes. Mr. Crane adjusted his glasses and opened the leather folder. The room fell silent.
To Dorothy Macklin, of the Boston General overnight custodial staff, I leave.
Why is he saying my name?
In the next 5 minutes, Crane read her name 14 separate times. 14.
The principal sum of $40 million, to be held in a charitable foundation.
40 million. That can't be right.
A relative at the far end slammed his palm on the table, but Dorothy heard nothing.
Before you ask, Miss Macklin, there is a story you need to hear.
3 weeks earlier, Dorothy clocked in at Boston General's ICU. The fluorescent lights buzzed as her cartwheels squeaked along the waxed floor. Room 412 was different. No flowers on the sill, no cards, no visitor chairs pulled close. Just a silent shape under thin blankets. Dorothy paused at the threshold longer than hospital policy allowed. The old man's chest rose and fell in shallow, mechanical beats.
Can I get you anything, sir? Some water or an extra blanket?
He didn't answer, but his half-closed eyes followed her face like she was the first warm thing in a long winter. The next night, she went in again. And the night after that, her mop bucket sat outside room 412 longer each shift.
Macklin, you are not paid to socialize. You have 14 rooms to turn over tonight.
He has no visitors. I was just checking on him.
You are a janitor. Clean the floor and move on. I don't want to see you in there again.
Dorothy nodded, but at 2 a.m., she slipped back inside. This time, William's thin fingers found hers and held on. The next night, Dorothy pulled a worn paperback from her cart and sat beside the bed.
The tide always comes back in. That's what the old fisherman said.
William's lips parted. A ghost of a smile touched his face, the first real expression she'd seen. Night after night, she read to him. The mop bucket sat untouched in the hallway while her break time bled into her shift. A nursing aide peered through the door's window and hurried to the nurse's station.
You went back after I told you not to. Do you understand what insubordination means?
I can't leave him. I just can't.
One more unapproved visit and you are terminated. This is your final warning.
The chart outside his door had a new note. Comfort measures only. Dorothy read it, and her chest burned. She pushed the door open. William's trembling hand was already reaching for her. She took it and refused to let go. The hours dissolved. Dorothy didn't move. His pulse fluttered against her thumb, each beat shallower than the last. At 4:17 a.m., the heart monitor's rhythm faltered. The line went flat. A single long tone filled the room. She didn't pull away. She held his cooling hand and let the silence settle over them both.
You are not alone now. You are not alone.
She kissed his forehead, then walked out of room 412. The hallway lights seemed harsher than before. She didn't tell anyone. The day shift was already arriving. She punched out and walked into the gray Boston morning.
I never even knew his last name.
The flashback fades. 18 hours later, Dorothy sits motionless in the law firm, her hands still remembering the weight of his.
Miss Macklin, do you know why a billionaire would check into room 412 every winter for 10 years?
Billionaire. That old man was a billionaire.
William was a shipping magnate. His company owned half the Atlantic fleet. But money never filled what he lost here.
The distant relatives shifted in their seats. One woman whispered that her mother had called William a recluse.
50 years ago, his only son, Thomas, died of leukemia in room 412 at Boston General. He was 9 years old.
An old photograph hovered in Dorothy's memory, the same room she had mopped 100 times. A child had once called it his last bed.
For the last 10 winters, William checked himself into that very same room. Not for treatment, just to be near his son.
A ghostly image flickered in the air. A small boy with a toy sailboat, sitting on the same bed where William had just died. The room stirred. The relatives looked at each other, faces hardening. They had never known this.
That's why he never asked for anyone. He wasn't waiting for family. He was waiting for Thomas.
The overnight cleaning staff were the only people who ever spoke to him kindly. No family, no friends, just the quiet voices of people like you, Miss Macklin.
He knew my name?
He knew your name the second night you came in, Miss Macklin. He memorized it from your badge.
Her memory cut back to room 412. His half-lidded eyes had always followed her badge.
For 10 years, he left instructions with the night supervisor. The custodial staff were never to be rushed out of his room.
A memory not hers. A young boy, Thomas, playing quietly on the same bed, a father watching from the corner. And to Dorothy Macklin, I leave the sum of $40 million to be held in trust for a charitable foundation.
Not the money. What does he want me to do?
With the sole directive that it must fund companion sitters, paid presences for the dying who have no one.
A man at the end of the table stood up, face red. This is insane. She scrubbed floors, he shouted. But Dorothy didn't hear him. She saw only the faint smile William gave her that last night, and a boy's ghost in the window.
What? What am I supposed to say?
You don't need to say anything now, Miss Macklin. But there is more.
Another relative, a woman in pearls, stood. She can barely manage a mop. How can she run a foundation? Mr. Crane turned a page and read, I appoint Dorothy Macklin as executive director of the foundation, with full authority over its mission.
Executive director. I clean floors. I've never run anything bigger than a mop bucket.
The will, 16 pages of tight legal script, contained her name 14 times, 14 anchors of an unbreakable trust.
Any challenge will fail. This will was drafted by the finest estate attorneys and witnessed by 3 federal judges.
The relatives fell silent. One by one, they gathered their coats and left, heels clicking on marble.
They're gone, and I am still here.
This doesn't have to be decided today, but the foundation's doors open. The moment you are ready.
Ready for what? To spend someone else's millions on strangers because I held in hand.
Dorothy stepped out of the law firm into the cold Boston dusk. The papers in her hand felt heavier than any mop. By 10 that night, she was back in her blue smock, pushing the cart down the ICU hallway, the wheels wobbling as if they knew something had broken.
Macklin, you left a room unsanitized last shift. What's wrong with you tonight?
Nothing. I'll fix it.
You've been distracted for weeks. If you can't handle the workload, tell me now.
Tell her that a dead billionaire handed me $40 million. She'd think I lost my mind. You are right. I can't handle it. Not anymore.
She unpinned the name tag that had hung on her chest for 14 years and placed it in Randall's palm.
You can't be serious. You have nothing else.
I have something, and it started in room 412.
The next morning, Dorothy walked into Mr. Crane's office for the first foundation meeting. Her blazer was new, but her hands still smelled of bleach. A banker slid a document across the table, saying someone with financial expertise should advise her. He didn't meet her eyes.
Advise me. He thinks I can't read a spreadsheet.
By the end of the first week, 3 law firms, 2 banks, and 1 investment manager had questioned her education. The hospital board was worse. 6 people in suits looked at her as if she still wore a smock. One board member spoke coolly. Miss Macklin, we appreciate the gesture, but this hospital has protocols. We can't just hand a room over to someone with your background.
My background. He means the color of my collar. Then the door is that way. I know how to mop, but I also know what room 412 meant to a dying man. Do any of you?
She walked out of the boardroom, her heels loud on the polished floor. Her hand shook, but her back was straight.
He didn't leave me that money to ask permission. He left it so I'd act.
That night, Dorothy drove to a cemetery on the edge of the city. She found his name under a sycamore tree.
They think I am nothing, William. A woman who scrubbed floors can't run your foundation, but you kept coming back every winter, didn't you? No board gave you permission to grieve.
In the dimming light, she saw him as he had been, a grieving father, stubbornly alive in a room haunted by a child.
You didn't pay them to ask. You just sat there. I can do that. 1 room, 1 sitter, 1 patient.
She stood up, her knees stained with dirt. The gravestone behind her read, William Jameson, father of Thomas.
I don't need a boardroom. I need a chair, a lamp, and someone to hold a hand.
She walked back to the car. The city lights distant. No more meetings. No more waiting.
I'll start small, like you did. 1 room, and then we'll see who needs permission.
By morning, she had leased a small office and begun hiring the first companion sitter. William's foundation had finally broken ground. 3 days later, Dorothy hired the first sitter, a young woman with quiet hands and no fear of stillness.
Your job isn't to cure, it's to companion. Read aloud. Hold a hand, be a witness. The dying don't need miracles. They need presence.
Within a week, that sitter sat beside a dying woman in a hospice room, fingers entwined. No television, no phone, just breath. A handwritten card arrived at the foundation office. My sister died that night. You held her hand. I will never forget what you gave us. A local reporter caught wind. The headline read, Ex-Janitor's Foundation Fills Final Loneliness. The hospital boardroom grew quiet.
They said I couldn't do it. Now they're reading about me over their morning coffee.
The hospital's PR officer called, asking for a meeting. Dorothy's hand tightened on the phone.
I am not coming to another board meeting. If the hospital wants to talk about a companion room, they can come here.
She hung up. Outside her window, the city kept its rhythm. Inside, the foundation had shifted from a wish to a quiet, unignorable force.
Room 412 is still empty. Not for long.
3 months later, Dorothy walked into the same hospital boardroom. She didn't pause at the door this time. Her heels echoed with purpose.
They're sitting in the same seats, but I am not the same woman who walked out.
The board chair spoke first, his tone warmer than before. We've seen the press, Miss Macklin. We'd like to partner.
Partner? I am not looking for a partner. I want room 412 designated exclusively for companion sitters, under the Foundation's full control.
A board member objected that the hospital had other needs, but Dorothy didn't blink.
This is non-negotiable. The money is mine to direct, and the directive is clear: companion sitters. Room 412 is where it starts.
The board chair exchanged a glance with the others. A long silence stretched. Then he nodded.
Room 412 will be renovated and rededicated to your program. You'll have full operational independence.
They shook hands. For the first time, Dorothy left the boardroom not as a janitor, but as a director.
He wanted a room for his son. I am going to make sure it's never empty again.
3 years later, room 412 bore no trace of its old silence. Soft lamp glow, shelves of books, a plaque on the door. The plaque read, "The Companion Sitter Room, in memory of William Jameson and his son Thomas." Dorothy stood in the doorway, a pair of scissors in hand. The ribbon across the threshold was as stark as a fresh start.
This room held a father's grief for 50 years. Now it holds the promise that no one dies alone.
The ribbon split. The door swung inward. Inside, a young companion sitter already sat beside the bed, cradling the hand of an elderly man with no visitors. The sitter was reading aloud from a worn paperback. The tide always comes back in.
He heard those words once. Now someone else will hear them at the end. We filled the silence, William. Your son's room never has to be empty again.
The companion sitter turned a page, and the quiet rhythm of a story filled the air where monitors once beeped. The crowd had gone. The ribbon fragments had been swept away. Dorothy remained alone in room 412, the silence no longer hollow. From her bag, she pulled out the same worn paperback she had read aloud on his final nights. The cover was curled, the spine cracked.
You listened. He listened.
She placed the book on the sitter's chair. It rested on the cushion like a promise that would outlast her. Her hand lingered on the page a moment longer than necessary, as if she could press the words through the paper. A single tear traced her cheek and fell onto the page, blurring a line about the sea. Blurring a line about the sea. She turned to the window. The Boston skyline was settling into dusk, a soft orange glow stretching over the buildings. Outside, the world kept moving. Inside, the silence had been filled.
Good night, William. Thomas.
She walked out, leaving the book on the chair for the next sitter, the next hand to hold, the next silence to break. Hours earlier, in the law firm, the distant relatives had stormed out. The conference room was tomb quiet, and Dorothy hadn't moved. Mr. Crane reached into his briefcase and withdrew a small wooden box. He pushed it across the polished table toward her. Inside lay a brass key and a sealed envelope. The handwriting on the front was spidery, the hand of a dying man.
He wrote this only for you, Miss Macklin. No lawyer, no relative, no clerk has seen it.
Only for me. He waited until he was dead to say whatever this is.
She tore it open and read aloud. Dorothy, you held my hand when I had forgotten what touch felt like. You gave me back my son's memory. Her voice cracked, but she kept reading, a tear splashing onto the ink. I have no daughter, but I think I would have wanted one like you. Do not be afraid of the money. It is only a tool. You are the heart.
He saw me. Not the janitor, not the badge, me, the woman who stayed.
She folded the letter, slipped it into her smock pocket, and when she looked up, her spine was straight. The story now fades forward. Dorothy stepped out of the law firm into the evening. She didn't go home. Her feet carried her past the hospital, across the city, toward the cemetery gates. By the time she reached the grave, the sky had bruised to purple. She knelt on the damp grass without caring about the stains.
You left me a letter, a fortune, and a job I am not sure I can do, but I hear you, William.
The image of a young boy with a sailboat flickered beside the headstone, as if Thomas had come to listen.
You gave me the part of you that never healed. I'll protect it. I'll make sure no one faces the dark alone again.
She pressed her palm flat against the cold granite, then stood. The grass had soaked her knees, but she didn't feel the chill.
From now on, I am not a janitor. I am a promise.
She walked back through the cemetery gates, the letters still crinkling in her pocket. By morning, she would quit her job. And 3 years from now, room 412 would hold no silence, only the quiet turning of pages.
I'll start small, like you did. One room, one hand, one story.
The next morning, Dorothy walked into the hospital's back corridor. Her locker was still the same dented gray box, but the woman opening it wasn't. She placed her personal items into a cardboard box. A worn photo, a spare smock, and the paperback she'd been reading the night William died. A sharp voice cut through the room. Nurse Randall stood at the entrance, arms crossed, her mouth already set in a sneer.
I knew you'd walk out. You couldn't handle the work. So what's next? Unemployment checks?
No, I am leaving to run a foundation. A dying man left me $40 million to put companion sitters in rooms like 412.
What? You are a janitor.
I was a janitor. Now I am the executive director of a $40 million foundation, and the first sitter program starts next month.
Randall's face went slack. For 6 years, she had seen only a mop and a bucket. Now she was seeing something she couldn't compute. Dorothy hefted the box onto her hip and walked out of the locker room. Her footsteps didn't slow.
Goodbye, Nurse Randall. You can tell the board I'll be back, but not to mop.
The weeks that followed were a blur of fluorescent-lit meeting rooms and skeptical faces. Dorothy learned to read legal briefs as carefully as she once read a mop label. Each night she returned to her tiny apartment, her spine aching, and fell asleep with a notebook full of to-do lists. The dream felt heavier than the janitor's cart ever had. 3 months after the board handshake, the renovation of room 412 began. Dorothy showed up at the hospital with a hard hat, insisting on watching every change. The bland walls gave way to warm paint. A bookshelf was installed. The overhead fluorescent was replaced with a soft reading lamp.
No beeping monitors, no sterile counters. A person should feel like they're in a home, not a machine.
For the pilot program, Dorothy herself chose the first companion sitter, assigned to room 412, a retired nurse with a voice like a lullaby. The pilot sitter's first patient was an elderly man with no family in room 412, She read to him every evening until the day he stopped breathing. A note arrived from a social worker. The patient died not with a call button in hand, but with a story and a held hand, because of you.
He said the money was only a tool. He was right. The real thing is the hand at the end.
By the end of the first year, the foundation had placed 7 sitters in 3 hospitals. Room 412 had become a quiet headquarters. 3 years after that night, at 4:17 a.m., news vans lined the hospital curb. Room 412 was no longer a secret, but a symbol. Dorothy stood before a small crowd, hospital staff, donors, families, and tapped the microphone.
I used to mop these floors, but a man in this room taught me that the deepest medicine isn't a pill or a machine. It's a hand in the dark. William Jameson lost his son Thomas in this room 50 years ago. Today we dedicate it back to them. No one will die alone here again.
She cut the ribbon. Cameras clicked. The brass plaque gleamed under the hall lights. Inside, a companion sitter already sat with a patient, her voice a low murmur reading from a worn paperback. The patient's fingers curled weakly around the sitter's hand, the same gesture William had given Dorothy on his final night.
14 times his will named me. This room is the reason.
Reporters interviewed families who spoke of the comfort they'd never known was possible. One man hugged Dorothy and didn't let go. The companion sitter room was officially open, and for the first time in 50 years, room 412 was full of life. As dusk settled, the last visitor left. Dorothy remained in room 412, the door half open, the lamp casting a warm orange pool. She reached into her bag and withdrew the worn paperback, the same one she'd read aloud in this room 4 years ago.
The tide always comes back in.
The room absorbed the words like a long-awaited conversation. She smiled, tracing the cracked spine with her thumb. She stood and walked to the plaque. Her fingers brushed the engraved letters. William Jameson, father of Thomas.
You'll never be alone in here again, either of you.
Outside the window, the Boston skyline flickered into night. Inside, the chair of the companion sitter waited for the next shift.
4 years ago, I was invisible. Now I am the reason someone will never die invisible.
She placed the paperback on the sitter's chair, its cover facing up. A bookmark lay inside, marking the passage she'd just read. Then Dorothy Macklin, once a janitor, now a director, walked out of room 412 and into the Boston evening, leaving behind a room that would never be empty again. In the months that followed, room 412 never stayed empty for long. A new companion sitter arrived with each shift, a new hand to hold. A retired teacher read poetry to a veteran who had outlived everyone who knew his name. A young musician played a guitar softly for a woman whose family couldn't travel. Each time, fingers intertwined. Each time, the silence became a bridge. The brassed plaque near the door collected the gentle wear of fingers touching it in passing. And on the wall above the sitter's chair, a small shadow box held a frail white hospital ID bracelet. William Jameson's name was still legible on the band, his final connection to the room he never truly left. Every companion sitter trained in that room knew its history. They were told to read aloud, to hold hands, to never rush.
One sitter, her voice barely above a whisper, said, "You are not alone. You are not alone."
And in the quiet, the room kept its promise. No one died alone. The janitor, who once held a billionaire's hand, had made sure of that. Dorothy still runs the foundation. Over 200 companion sitters have served in room 412. Thousands of hours of quiet reading, hand-holding, and whispered comfort. Every night at 4:17 a.m., the staff dims the lights in room 412, a moment of silence for a man who died there and for his son Thomas, who remains 9 years old. But the room is never dark for long. A sitter takes a seat, a lamp clicks on, a worn paperback rests on the chair, its spine cracked open to a favorite line.
The tide always comes back in.
On the wall, William Jameson's hospital bracelet waits in its shadow box, a relic of a night when a janitor held on and a billionaire's loneliness was finally understood. And every night since, someone holds on. No one dies alone here. The promise endures.